Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be talking about BT-06, and in BT-06 we got a lot of new powerful cards to build some new and exciting decks with, and today's deck is going to be the Agumon Bond of Courage deck. So the Agumon Bond of Courage deck is looking to be rather similar to the Gabumon Bond of Friendship deck, where the whole idea is we're trying to take advantage of the warp to go from our level 3s to our level 7s and apply lots of pressure onto the opponent as quickly as we possibly can, and have our low levels try to finish off the game that way. So this is still looking to be a pretty powerful deck, and there is a couple of stark differences between the tools that Red has and the tools that Blue have, making this a really interesting deck compared to the Bond of Friendship version. So starting things off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Koromon. So Koromon is really good because it's essentially acting as the draw engine of the deck. Because we are a more aggressive style of deck, we are going to be hard playing our cards, and we're going to just minimally be evolving, so we do need alternate ways to draw cards so that way we could see our pieces more consistently and try to keep ourselves in the game. And Koromon is looking at being a really good draw engine for the deck just because he has this nice inheritable ability of, when attacking once per turn, if this Digimon is an Omnimon or a Greymon, then we get to draw 1 card. So for just attacking with our Greymons, drawing cards is looking to be really, really good. And then as far as the 5th Digitama of the deck goes, it could really be anything you feel like you want to be using. I'm just choosing to run 1 copy of DemiMeramon because it has this nice inheritable ability of, when attacking, not locked to once per turn, but that doesn't really matter. When this Digimon attacks a player, it gets plus 1000 DP. So this is just an easy way to gain 1000 DP for almost all of our Digimon, and that's looking to be pretty good. Now, granted, the Digitama slot for this style of deck doesn't matter as much, so you could really play around with whatever Digitama combination you feel like you want to be running, but I just found this to be working for me personally based on how the deck is built. Next, on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Agumon. So this is the BT-01 Agumon, and this Agumon is really good because it has this nice on-play ability where we get to check the top 5 cards of our deck, and then we get to add 1 Tamer from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So this is your just stereotypical Tamer digger, and we want to see our Tamers because our Tamers is where a lot of our power is going to be coming from, so making sure that we have a way to find our Tamers as consistently as we possibly can is really, really good. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Agumon Expert. So Agumon Expert is a pretty underutilized card, and this card is actually really good for this style of deck just because we are going to be playing lots of Agumons, and this Agumon has the nice on-play ability where we could return 1 Agumon card from our trash back into our hand. So the fact that we could recycle and reuse a lot of our Agumons make this card really, really good, especially since he also is kind of like a pseudo-infinite combo where you could use Agumon Expert to keep bringing back your Agumon Experts, so you'll never run out of Digimon in case that situation does arise. So you could play around and change the quantity of how many Agumon Experts you're going to be running, but the idea isn't necessarily to recycle himself forever, and it's to utilize our other cards again. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Agumon. So this is the BT-03 version of Agumon, and this Agumon is really good just because it's a very efficient card to just hard play, and it's a relatively decently sized body for a rookie. So for the low play cost of 2, you get 4000 DP, and if you really need to in a pinch, you could evo him for 1, but that's not the intended purpose. We're just trying to hard play him to get an Agumon on the field and have that Agumon be as powerful as it possibly can be. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Agumon. So this is the BT-06 Agumon, and this Agumon is acting very similar to the BT-06 Gabumon, where they have this very same style of effect where during all turns, once per turn, when you play a Tamer with Tai in its name, then you get to gain 1 memory. So this just makes our Taikamia Tamers really, really efficient. And then on top of that, it also has a nice inheritable ability where during your turn, while this Digimon is Agumon Bond of Courage, then this Digimon gains Security Attack +1. So it's just making the warp and the Digimon we're warping into that much stronger when we're using this card. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Agumon. So this is the promo Agumon, or at least a promo Agumon, and this promo Agumon is looking to be pretty good because it has the nice inheritable ability where during your turn, while this Digimon has Greymon in its name, it gets plus 2000 DP. So this is really only going to be affecting our Greymons, and we're only going to be running a handful of Greymons, so I didn't really feel like it was necessary to max it out at 4 because it's not going to be used on anything else, but the fact that it does make our Greymons even more powerful is the whole reason why we want to run it, on top of the fact that it is another Agumon. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Agumon. So this version of Agumon is the brand new starter deck version of Agumon, and this Agumon is probably one of the best Agumons that we could be playing around with it in terms of just it generically DP boosting our Digimon. You could use the other starter deck Agumon if you wanted to, but I do like the ability on this card because it has a nice inheritable ability of when attacking. When this Digimon attacks a player, then it gets up plus 2000 DP. So most of the time we are just going to be continuously attacking the player, so being rewarded with some extra DP versus a generic 1000 is looking to be pretty good, and it's easier to get this off on some of our other Digimon than our other Agumon, so this card just has more usability overall in terms of just DP boosting our Digimon. Next, on to the level 4s, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Greymon. So this is the BT-03 Greymon, and this Greymon is really good because it's a security Digimon. So the whole point of the security ability is at the end of the battle, then this Digimon gets to be played for free. So if we are trying to aggress onto the opponent, then the opponent is going to eventually have to try to aggress onto us, and the fact that we do have some security Digimon to play to just add that surprise factor where now we have a body that they might not have been anticipating is looking to be really, really good because we could use that body to try to help close out the game with. So that's just adding to the overall playability of this Greymon, on top of the fact that it is a Greymon to trigger some of our other abilities off. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Agunimon. So Agunimon is acting similar to how Lobomon was being played in a lot of blue decks. We're just using this card to Digivolve from our hand on top of one of our Tamers as if it was a level 3 Digimon to then use to try to close out the game with. So the fact that we do have a way to help try to close out the game with Agunimon and Hybrid Digimon is looking to be pretty good because we could break a lot of the opponent's security relatively easily, but we do need ways of figuring out how to close out the game, and Agunimon is looking to fulfill that role quite nicely. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Greymon. So this is the promo Greymon, and this Greymon is looking to be pretty good because it has this nice ability where during your turn, while this Digimon has an Agumon in its Digivolution source, then this Digimon gains Security Attack +1. So this is just a really aggressive card, allowing us to deal lots of damage as early as we possibly can. So the fact that all of our rookies are going to be Agumon means that this card is almost always going to be online, and we do have some cards to help boost his DP to ensure that he's going to be living as often as he possibly can, trying to check as many security checks as he possibly can, because he could apply lots of additional pressure really, really early because of the fact that he's a low level. So you could customize the deck and tailor-make the deck to be a little bit more centered around him, but that's not the whole point. The whole point is to focus on Agumon Bond of Courage, but this card is a really good complement to that because we could break the opponent's security relatively quickly and relatively easily. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Greymon. So this is the Greymon that comes from the new red starter deck, and this Greymon is looking to be a really good card because, well, it's another security Digimon. So similar to why we're running the BT-03 Greymon is the reason why we're running this version of Greymon, just because at the end of that security battle, we get to play this card for free, and the fact that we are an aggro deck and the opponent's eventually going to have to attack into us, meaning that we could potentially spawn bodies out of our security, is looking to be really, really good, but this card also does have a huge upside and advantage compared to the other security Greymon, where this actually has an on-play effect, where we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 4,000 or less DP. So the fact that he could potentially remove bodies on the field on top of spawning him for free is looking to be really good, on top of the fact that he has all of the Greymon synergy that the deck is slightly taking advantage of. And then the last Digimon of the deck, and the only high-level Digimon we're going to be running, is going to be 4 copies of Agumon Bond of Courage. So we are not playing any other level 5s, we're not playing any other level 6s, we're just going straight up into our level 7, and this is the whole powerhouse of the deck and why the deck is the way it is. So what we're doing with this card is he has a nice when attacking ability where if we have a Tamer in play, then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 13,000 DP or less. So when attacking, he just gets to delete basically any Digimon that's weaker than him, and that's looking to be pretty good because it's just some solid removal ability attached to a Digimon body. And then on top of that, he also has another ability where during your turn, once per turn, when one of your opponent's Digimon gets deleted, then you get to trash out one card from the top of the opponent's security stack. So literally just for swinging, deleting a Digimon with his first ability, his second ability triggers, allowing us to delete one of the security before the security check even happens. So this is really, really powerful just because deleting the opponent's security is slightly better than Security Attack Plus, just because it's not taking into account what that security card is, and it's just straight up getting rid of it, allowing you to aggress even easier than before. But if we do pair this up with the new Agumon, then we could give him Security Attack Plus, so he could potentially hit for 3 security or delete 3 security all in a single turn, making him just a really good card to be using. And we could take advantage of the fact that we could warp right into him to not even worry about trying to play this game of chicken, just because we could go directly from almost any of our level 3s into our level 7 with the use of one of our Tamers. So all of that combined is just making Agumon Bond of Courage just look to be very, very powerful. Next, onto the options, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Red Reamer. So Red Reamer is a pretty decent option card just because it has a relatively low play cost for what the effect is doing. So what its effect is it has the main ability of deleting one of the opponent's Digimon with 6,000 DP or less. Usually for that type of ability, we're going to be paying 5 or 6 memory, so the fact that we have that type of ability for only paying 4 makes it really tempo and memory efficient. And then on top of that, it also has another upside, where if the opponent has 3 or more Digimon in play, then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 13,000 DP or less instead. So the fact that it can hit even higher bodies for the opponent just flooding the field means that this card just is looking to be really, really powerful at allowing us to deal with a lot of the opponent's threats. And then it has the nice powerful security ability of activating its main, so it's just looking to be a really good removal card overall. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Red Memory Boost. So Red Memory Boost is just adding to the overall consistency of the deck because it has this nice main ability where we get to check the top 4 cards of our deck, then we get to add 1 red Digimon among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So this is just helping us dig out the cards that we want to be looking for, which is really, really good. And then on top of that, it also has the other main ability of delay of gaining 2 memory, so we could utilize that 2 memory later whenever we feel like we need to. Now, you could make the argument where you don't even need to play Red Reamer and you could just play more Red Memory Boost, and that's totally fine. I just like the different options on what each of the options are doing. But Red Memory Boost is looking to be a really good card for the deck. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gaiaforce. So Gaiaforce is, well, just Gaiaforce. It's one of the best, if not the best, removal card in the game, just because it has the nice main ability to delete to one of the opponent's Digimon. There's no conditions or requirements attached to it. It's just you play it, it's gone, and there. You're done. And then it also has the nice security ability of activating its main ability, so this just is a really good card at allowing us to try to deal with a lot of the opponent's threats, because eventually we will get to a point where we do need to try to get rid of the opponent's threats, and in a Rookie Rush style of deck, even though this might not seem the greatest, it's really good when it does come out of the security, which is what we're hoping for more often than not. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Atomic Blaster as the last option card of the deck. So Atomic Blaster is actually a really insane option card to be using. So it has a memory cost of 5, and it allows us to delete any number of Digimon whose total DP adds up to 8,000 or less. So this is really, really powerful because it can hit basically a Digimon that has 8,000 DP or less, and if they have multiple Digimon, especially if they're smaller bodies, then we could use this to delete those multiple bodies. So the fact that this card has a ton of flexible utility to it makes it really, really powerful. And then on top of that, the fact that this has a nice security ability of activating its main ability is looking to be really, really good. Again, similar to Red Reamer and Gaiaforce, we're not necessarily looking to always hard play the card. We're looking to utilize the card to just activate in the security more often than not, but the fact that it is just a really efficient removal card makes it just a decent card to be playing overall. And then lastly, onto the Tamers, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Marcus Damon. So Marcus is a pretty decent tamer. He is going to be the deck's dedicated memory fixing tamer, so if our memory is ever less than 3, he'll just always hard set it to 3, and we are basing a lot of our plays, or at least the one big play, off of having 3 memory, so that's already looking to be pretty good. And then on top of that, he has a nice additional ability where during your turn, when one of your Digimon with Greymon in its name attacks, then we get to suspend this tamer to gain an additional memory. So we could use that memory in some very powerful ways. We don't necessarily care about the fact that it's in post-attack, because we are a Rookie Rush-esque style of deck where we're going to be constantly trying to play cards, and having the additional memory to help play our cards is looking to be really, really good. And then the last tamer and probably most important card of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Tai Kamiya. So this is the brand new Taikamia coming out of BT-06, and this is the most important card in the deck because it is how we're going to be playing Agumon Bond of Courage. So what this card is doing is it has 2 abilities. The first ability is during your turn, when your Digimon with Agumon or Greymon in its name is moved out from the raising area into the battle area, then we get to draw a card and gain a memory. Well, we do play lots of Greymons and we do play lots of Agumons, so the fact that this card is going to help us draw cards and gain memory is already looking to be really, really powerful. And then what we're mainly trying to use the card for is its secondary ability, where it has the main ability of once per turn, we could Digivolve one of our Agumons into an Agumon Bond of Courage from our hands by paying its Digivolution cost and ignoring its level requirements. Then, if we do, we have to trash the top 2 cards of our security stack. Then, if we have 1 or more cards in our security, we have to delete that Digimon at the end of the turn. So that's just a lot to unpack, but basically what the card is allowing us to do is just warp our Agumons into Agumon Bond of Courage, and then if we have enough security, then we do have to delete the Agumon Bond of Courage, but that's okay considering we are trying to damage race the opponent, and if we could deal more damage than they could deal us, then we're going to have a high chance of winning, just because of how quickly we could start this train rolling, and the fact that we could keep reusing our Agumon Bond of Courage to just try to make our deck as consistent and powerful as it possibly can to apply lots of pressure onto the opponent. So the fact that we do have Agumon Expert to help bring back our Agumon Bond of Courage is looking to be really, really powerful on making sure we could constantly keep an Agumon Bond of Courage in our hand to use for Tai Kamiya's ability. So that's just adding up to make Tai Kamiya one of the best, if not the best tamer in the entire deck, and what the entire deck is focused around. And then there's still just a lot of other different tech and tools that you could use in the deck, all depending on how you want to build the deck and what you want to support it with. So if you want it, you could consider utilizing the hybrid cards, similar to how Gabumon Bond of Friendship likes to use its hybrids. We still have a very similar line of access and lines of play with our hybrids. So we have Flamon to help dig out our hybrids and our tamers. We have Burning Greymon as just another really decent card to act as another very aggressive card. No, it is not considered a Greymon, so it doesn't have the Greymon synergies, but it's still a hybrid for our hybrid synergies. Then we have access to the promo Agunimon to act as another good warping point to warp into our Ancient Greymon to try to deal some extra damage that way. And we even have Aldemon as another really good hybrid to think about stopping at level 5s, just because we're already stopping at level 4s, so what's an Aldemon compared to some other Digimon? And then as far as some alternate higher level Digimon you could consider running, you could run Rise Greymon just because we don't necessarily have to Digivolve him into anything past him, although depending on the deck and the build you easily could. We're just trying to utilize his Digiburst ability to be able to play our red Tamers for free, which is looking to be pretty good. On top of that, you also have Deltamon, which is just a very powerful level 4, just because it's a level 4 with 7,000 DP, and we even have some other Greymon tech that we could consider running. Then we even have the BT-05 Agumon to think about, just to try to help dig out our Greymons. And we even have, like I said, the starter deck Agumon if we just want another way of generically DP boosting our higher levels. And then as far as some other spice, you could consider running Magnetroom just because we are playing around with our security a lot, and our securities are already going to be really, really threatening based on how we currently built the deck. So we could run Magnetroom as an easy way to just keep our security as healthy as possible, because not only are we deleting our own security through Tai Kamiya, but we also have just a lot of security abilities we want to trigger, so Magnetroom is looking to be pretty good there. On top of that, we also have Trident Revolver to try to help act as some good removal and play our Tamers more efficiently, which is, again, always really, really good. And then we do have other access to other removal cards in the form of Transcendent Sword. So this is basically another copy of Gaiaforce for all intents and purposes. Because we're running lots of Greymons, there's a very high chance that we could delete Digimon with 15,000 or less, but even at worst, deleting Digimon with 11,000 or less isn't bad. And then we do have access to a couple of different draw tech options. So if you want, you could think about running Ties growing up, just because this is interacting with Tai Kamiya, it's interacting with Agumon, and it's drawing us cards. Yes, it does have the downside where we do have to place a Agumon card on our field to the bottom of the deck to draw 3 cards, but that's drawing 3 cards for 0, so it's not like running Ties growing up is that bad of a card, especially with the security ability of adding it to our hand, and we do have some cheap Agumons to combo this with, so it's just a good card at helping you draw cards. And then as an honorable mention to try to help us draw cards in a different way, we do have Heir of Dragons because we are running Greymons to help us draw cards and delete the opponent's Digimon at the same time. And if you want, it does also combo with Magnetroom, so when it does get checked in the security, if we have Magnetroom on the field, then we will get both abilities that way, so it's a pretty decent card to think about still. And then as far as other Tamers of the deck go, you could consider running any of the other Taikamiyas. So the starter deck one's not bad because with the new Agumon, it basically costs 1 to get a red Tamer on the field, so that'll just DP boost our Digimon by 1,000. So that could be pretty good, especially since we're an aggro deck and our DP actually does matter most of the time on trying to aggress onto the opponent and survive whatever security checks we're going to be doing. And then we also have the other Taikamia from BT-01 to just act as another generic memory fixing tamer to hard set our memory to 3 if it's less than 3. We're almost never going to be triggering the ability to gain an additional security tech off, but you could build the deck in a way to accommodate it, so it's not like it's the worst thing in the world to be utilizing, just as an extra tie that we could be playing for 3 instead of 4. But as I said, there is just a lot of different things that you could do, but again, the whole point of the deck is to just warp all the way up into Agumon Bond of Courage, and then have Agumon Bond of Courage deal as much damage as we possibly can, while having some of our other cards that act as really good forms of either A, dealing lots of damage, or B, being consistent Digimon to allow us to just play our cards as efficiently as we possibly can. So it's just looking to be a very powerful deck, and it's a very fun deck to be playing with, and it's going to be really interesting to see how people take to this deck, because it is slightly different than Gabumon Bond of Friendship, and I do think the Gabumon Bond of Friendship deck is a little bit stronger than this, but either way, it's still looking to be another really powerful deck to be coming out of BT-06. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.